It is 4 o'clock now. So, as I promised, after doing the last two factors, the Eightfold Path, there is an alternative, a different way of looking at the same thing. It's called the Gradual Path. So, you find it in the first 13 or 14 of the sutras in the Deepa Nikaya, repeated many, many times. It's a very early description of the path towards enlightenment. Now it is focused just on monks and nuns, but you can interpret it as also a way for the lay community also to get on the path to enlightenment. So this is a gradual training. First of all, a Buddha appears in the world, accomplished, fully awakened, perfect in true knowledge, well liberated, know of the world, incomparable teacher of those who be taught, teacher of gods and humans, the awakened one, the master, and just another word for Bhagawa, instead of calling him the Lord. So, first of all, that one over there, that passage there, many of you, if you ever do any chanting, Iti Piso Bhagawa Arahant Samma Sambuddha, that's that chant there. Where it says accomplished, the Arahat, worthy, is awakened. The word Buddha means the awakened one, so Samma Sambuddha, perfectly awakened, perfect in true knowledge and conduct, well liberated, not of the world. So that really means he hasn't got sort of powers to know the alien worlds. In Buddhism they say there's 3 worlds, 3 actually descriptions. There is the realm of beings with the 5 senses, it includes the animal realms, the human realms, but the other 2 realms is the Rupa Loka and Arupa worlds. The Rupa worlds is actually the worlds of jhanas, and the Arupa the immaterial realms. And each one of those is considered by the Buddha to be a whole universe separate from this one. Not the same, not like parallel worlds, but sort of the world of the mind. And I was always fascinated by how much that we talk about the universe, but these whole realms of the mind, which most people either don't exist or just refuse ideologically to say they exist. In Buddhism, the 3 worlds, this is just one of these worlds. The other 2 worlds are what you access through the deep meditations. Incomparable teachers are those who can be taught. This is another phrase which I was impressed with, because as a teacher there's some people who just cannot be taught. You may have a son like that, who just cannot be taught. And there's no failing in the teacher. Because sometimes people will be taught, they're open to being taught, sometimes they can't. And there's one thing which I always noticed, doesn't matter just how powerful you are as a monk, as a teacher, a son can never teach their mother. I tried very hard when I was a young monk to teach my mother. It was impossible. I let some other monk teach the mother. And even the person who was the most wise next to the Buddha, Sariputta, he could never teach his mother either. No matter how much he tried, his mother just wouldn't listen to him because of the conditioning. Your mother brings you into the world, feeds you at her breast, and teaches you everything. And that role is just so ingrained. And not even very, very, very enlightened, wise monks could actually change that role for the mother to be the disciple of the son. So that's a very difficult one. So that's why there's some people who just can't be taught by some people, they can't be taught by others. So, incomparable teacher of those who can be taught, teacher of gods and humans, because apparently the Buddha did go and teach heavenly beings as well. Those heavenly beings do exist, but sometimes just because they're supernatural doesn't mean that they're wise. So sometimes it's up for wise people, human beings, to teach the gods. And Bhagawa, the master. We try to find a word, instead of the Lord, master is one of those, Bhagawa. But sometimes for me, because when I was young, a kid watching TV, I used to watch Doctor Who, and every time I see the master, I think of that character. Anyone who watches Doctor Who here? Apparently it's still going. But anyway, the master was a really bad guy, character in Doctor Who. I don't know if he's still going. So anyway, the master. And also I'm really concerned why it is that in the Chinese traditions you always call like a monk who is a teacher, you call him master. But you never say that to a nun. So I remember going to Hong Kong and giving a talk, Two Masters dialogue. So what happens if there was a monk debating with a nun? Would that be a master and the mistress? That would be very funny. Or two mistresses. Keeping gender equity. There's sometimes though that when we try and get gender equity, that sometimes it all goes haywire. That's why once we had a nun's monastery in Perth, we had the head nun, Hasapanya. She said, why do you keep calling her abbot? That's a male term. So we did try first of all calling her abbess. But too many people mispronounce that as abyss. So the abyss. So it was just too close. I think they did that on purpose because they didn't like her. So anyway, so we don't call a female teacher abbess because it sounds too much close to abyss. So, a Buddha appears in the world with his own direct knowledge. In other words, not given by some divine intervention, but just finding it out for oneself. Has realized this universe with its God, this world with its thoughtless beings, he makes it known to others, he teaches the Dhamma, good in the beginning, good in the middle, and good in the end, with the right meaning and right phrasing, reveals a perfectly complete and pure spiritual life. Good in the beginning, good in the middle, good in the end. So it's not just good in the end, and really just hard to believe in the beginning, and really tough in the middle, but in the end it's worth it. It's good all the way. That's one of the things which I liked about that phrase. If it really is the path, then when you first come across it, it feels inspiring, it feels happy, it feels peaceful, it's good in the beginning. And all the way through, you don't have any dark nights of the soul, as they used to have in Christianity, not some black periods you go through. If you practice properly, if you're going on the right path, then it's good in the beginning, good in the middle, and obviously really great in the end. So, a Buddha arises in the world, and then confidence. You hear that Dhamma, on hearing the Dhamma you acquire faith in the Buddha. Possessing that faith you consider that as a household life, it's troublesome and busy, life as a monastic is free and relaxed. It is not easy while living in a house to lead the holy life utterly perfect and pure. Suppose if I shave off my hair, put on the orange robe and go forth from the world, life into a monastery. Now, of course, that is especially for monastics. But I think you can all appreciate that this life in the world, by talking about your lives, it is busy and it's very troublesome. And sometimes you can look at the idea of simplifying your life. Even people just not having kids. And I'm interested that is becoming more and more common in our modern world. That women decide they don't have to have kids. And they make a choice, and it's a free choice. And even though they have to usually resist their mother, who says, when you're having a baby, darling, I want grandchildren. But sometimes that you can be strong and say, no, this is my life. And in this particular life, I've had kids in previous lives, but this one I don't feel like I want to have a little bit more freedom and simplicity in my life. So where it says here, household life is troublesome and busy, life as a monastic is free and relaxed, what it really means to each one of you is that to simplify as much as possible. And a lot of times there are some people who say, well, it's very hard to find space in a monastery. Both our nuns' monastery and monks' monastery are always bursting at the seams. It's really hard to find a place there. And some people say, well, it's also just at my age difficult just learning all these rules and learning how to wear your robes and stuff. Can I not do that in the household life? And a lot of lay men and lay women are actually doing that. They live a very, very simple life, and they don't need to go to the wildernesses, because for many people you can find solitude in the city. Apartments, stay there by yourself, you can go on a retreat in your apartment for a week. No one will bother you. And it's convenient, it's quiet. There's sometimes that even in my, well, actually I can't really say this because my hotel room is overlooking the beach, and last night there was a wedding which was noisy. But usually a hotel is quieter than living in the forest. In the forest is the sound of so many animals, especially cicadas and other insects at night time. They can be deafening. But sometimes in your little homes you can find a quiet room which is even more peaceful than a monastery with many monasteries. Of course my cave is really silent, but most monasteries can be really noisy. So you can find that sort of simplicity. You don't need to have big houses. Small houses are enough. And you look at people's lives. Big houses are just some very modern phenomena. Where maybe your parents or grandparents grew up, tiny houses, a lot of fun. No wonder why we need such huge mansions these days, as you see people having so many rooms. You can only be in one room at one time. So this is actually where you learn that household life is a bit busy and troublesome. And the bigger the house, you already have to pay. It means the harder you have to work. And sometimes people lose sleep at night wondering how they can pay all their bills. But if you understand the problem there, it's not that hard to live simply in this life. You don't need much. And if you want to actually always go on international holidays, go on an executive retreat being exempted from that law. But if it's just you don't really want to have fashionable clothes, this isn't fashionable, this is totally out of fashion. But you can live extremely simply in your life, which means that you understand the meaning here. Life, in the fast lane is extremely troublesome and difficult. It is a nice, peaceful life. Maybe other people may not understand it. Why are you struggling and striving to get better, to improve, to upgrade your home, to upgrade your car, to upgrade? You say, no, I'm just happy where I am. Peaceful, simple, and that makes it less crowded, less difficult. And even in your houses, sometimes it's good to, if you have any photographs of people's houses in the old days, so you go to museums and see how little furniture people have. Now you go to people's houses and you can't even move. Sometimes there's so much furniture there, something in every corner. It's nice having empty rooms. Simple places. So you don't need always to go buy stuff. It's an empty corner. I should put something in there. Keep it empty. Easy to clean. So that's what it really means over here. Household life is troubled and busy. Life in simplicity is free and relaxed. It is not easy while living in a house, a busy house, to lead a holy life utterly perfect and pure. Suppose I shave off my hair, put on the orange robe, and go forth and lead life into a monastery, which means I simplify, downsize. On a later occasion, this is for the monks, having given away all your wealth, abandoning your circle of relations and friends, get the right relations and friends, ones who are similar to you, who understand what you're doing if you want to live a simple life. Some of your friends will sometimes wonder, what are you doing? You go to a nice 5-star resort in Phuket, and you spend all your time just sitting down, closing your eyes. Go shopping, go touring around, learn how to surfboard, learn how to snorkel. Why are you doing that? You're wasting the opportunity. They don't understand you. Sometimes they pull you into their way of life. So it's good to abandon those circle of friends who lead you into more worldliness and more problems and trouble, and see if you can get a really good circle of friends who also understand your willingness and your aspiration to have a simple, peaceful life. A life, full of more time for yourselves, maybe less wealth, but less stress, more spiritual life. So, that is the idea. When you hear the Dhamma, you always simplify. And I'm very impressed by a few people I know. For one reason or another, they just can't become monks or nuns, but they live probably much more simple much more virtuous, much more spiritual lives than many monks and nuns which I know. So, you can do it. Don't ever think that you're second-class Buddhist because you're lay people. Virtue. So once you have gone forth, let's try to simplify your life, you train in the spiritual way of life. You abstain from killing living beings. With rod and weapon laid aside, conscientious, merciful, you live compassionate to all living beings. You abstain from taking what is not given, taking only what is given, wanting only what is given, by not stealing, you abide in purity. And this is for monks, or when you do an 8 precepts, you abstain from all sexual activity, living apart from the other gender, or the same gender if you are same gender sex. You abstain from the lay practice of sexual intercourse, you abstain from false speech, you speak only the truth, you are trustworthy and reliable, you are no deceiver of the world. You abstain from divisive speech, you do not tell tales in order to divide people, but you are one who reunites those who are divided, a promoter of friendships who enjoys harmony, rejoices in harmony, delights in harmony, and speak of words that promote harmony. You know that sometimes in families, in business, in the office, sometimes even in spiritual communities, so I can't understand, people just want to sort of cause problems. And they just tell tales, some are true, some are false, most actually are false. But you say, well, what's the purpose of me saying this? If I see anyone misbehaving, I just won't sort of tell them in public. You hear what so-and-so has done. You just, if necessary, it's going to help them. You choose the right time and the place, take them aside and tell them privately. Not with ill will, but say, what are you doing that for? It's not helping you, not helping others. You don't go gossiping and telling. That's the stuff which newspapers do. And you abstain from harsh speech. You only speak words that are gentle, pleasing to the ear and lovable, words that go to the heart, are courteous, desired by the many, agreeable to the many. So how do you speak to your partner? Remember, this is so important to have a wonderful relationship, especially if you're a Buddhist. They don't say anything which is harsh and get angry and say these really cruel words, because those harsh words, they remain in your partner for years sometimes, and it just destroys the trust. If they've upset you, they were in a bad mood that day, or something happened, maybe give them the benefit of the doubt. But don't just judge them so quickly and get angry at them and say harsh speech. So, many of you, I've known you for a long time, and I don't think any of you have ever heard me say harsh speech to you. Even when you make mistakes, you come late, or whatever happens, I never shout at anybody. So I like to teach by example. You ask my monks, I don't shout at them. You just take them aside when they need to be taught something and give them a little lesson, but kindly, without harsh words. And also you abstain from useless speech. You speak at proper time, speak what is truthful, speak on what is beneficial, speak on the Dharma and the training. Act. Scroll, please. It's not scrolling. Yeah, you hopeless, Oh, sorry. No, I cannot shout it. You speak at the proper time, you speak words that are worth treasuring, authoritative, succinct, and beneficial. And sometimes when people read that, they say, well, Ajahn Brahma, it doesn't say you should tell jokes. What's beneficial about telling jokes? And I think you understand the benefit of telling a funny story. It keeps people awake, it brings them joy, and people actually pay attention. And the reason I tell funny stories when I give talks is just my own experience. I was a Buddhist when I was only 16. First time I found any other Buddhist when I was 18 and went to university. And I went to all these talks by these monks and professors on Buddhist subjects. And most of the time I fell asleep. And I was busy staying up late at night and going to the talk in the evening, studying hard. Your brain was exhausted and you heard a talk in the evening and you were just so tired you fell fast asleep. And I remember, when I mentioned that to my mate, Professor Bernard Carr, he said, yeah, he remembered that. He was actually introducing one of the speakers. And after introducing the speaker started talking, he fell fast asleep. And he was the MC. It's very embarrassing. But those happen. And you can understand it's not the fault of the audience, it's the fault of the speaker. In public speaking, you always learn how to change the tone of your voice and the speed of your voice, because if you always speak in a low tone, very slowly and mindfully, everyone goes to sleep. Like the joke, this is a Buddhist joke. Like in the temple, the monk was teaching the Eightfold Path. You know, in Pali, Samma Ditti, Samma Sankappa. You don't know much Pali, but that's, a lot of people know the Eightfold Path in Pali. So it's saying Samma Ditti, Samma Sankappa, Samma Vaja, Samma Kamanto, this one, Samma Vaja, Samma Kamanto, Samma Ajiva. And they said, what's the next one? And one person in the audience shouted out, Samma Sleeping. Because that's what they were doing, some were sleeping. So, and that was funny because it happens often. I don't know how many times you've listened to a talk and you've fallen fast asleep. And hopefully not during one of my talks. That's why I changed the tone of my voice and tell stories and also tell jokes that wakes people up. Gives them some energy. Anyway, now that is for the 5 precepts. No, it's not the 5 precepts. It's the first 4 precepts and expanding on the right speech. And these ones are especially for monastics. But it's good you know what the rules are for monastics, so you know if a monastic is messing around. You abstain from injuring seeds and plants, not just animals. We're not supposed to do gardening. And some say, why not? Because if you could do gardening, you could have your own vegetable gardens at your monasteries and look after yourselves. I think one of the reasons was that the Buddha never wanted his monks and nuns to be self-sufficient. Because if we could grow our own veggie garden and cook the food for ourselves, we wouldn't need you. We'd be in our monastery, closing the doors, and just too much bother with you and your children and husband problems and wife problems and business problems. We would just be even in extreme solitude, like some of those Christian monasteries. But by the fact that we cannot cook for ourselves, we cannot buy the food for ourselves, we cannot even grow food for ourselves, it means that the Buddha is telling monks and nuns you have to be dependent on the support of the lay community. You have to be intentionally dependent on another. The reason is twofold. One, it gives you, the lay community, an opportunity for developing good monks and for getting rid of bad ones. In other words, if there is a monk or nun or a community which is not behaving, for goodness sake, don't give donations to them, don't feed them. Because that's what happened in the time of the Buddha in the town of Kosambi. The monks were arguing. And the argument was so bad, there was 2 factions started, and the lay people said, oh come on, you're monks, you teach us to live in harmony, to forgive and let go, but you can't. And then when the Buddha heard about that, he came straight away, because the one thing which was really important was that at least the monastic community lived in harmony. You know what they said when the Buddha arrived at Kosambi? He said, basically, the monk said, it's none of your business, we all sort this out, you just go off and meditate, Buddha. They didn't even respect their own teacher. So the Buddha just left. He went off into the Paradayika forest. And as soon as he left, the lay people were just so upset. Saying, oh, the Buddha has come and he was so upset at you, he never stayed, he didn't give us any teachings because you were bad conduct monks. So all the Buddhists in that town met together, what should we do? And they came up with the solution, we're not going to feed the monks. No one is. So the next day when the monks went on alms round, no one put any food in their bowl. And they couldn't buy any food, they didn't have any money, they couldn't grow any food. So that day they went hungry. The same happened the next day. And the next day. The 6 days, the agreement in the whole town that no one should give any food to any of those monks. And after 6 days of going hungry, the monks decided, well, we can't last that much longer. So they patched up their differences, forgave one another, and lived in harmony. Once the lay people found that out, then they started feeding them again. So you've got total power over me. If I say the wrong thing, Gerald, don't give me any tea. I will give up in a couple of hours. I will concede. Don't feed me. Yes, I've got a bit of a storm inside, but sooner or later I'll get hungry. And that means that it's the way the lay people can keep the monastic community in line. Please do that. And also, number 2, it was because if we were independent, we wouldn't need you. And that's a very bad teaching. You know, we need you as monastics. We have to give donations to run our monasteries, to actually feed us. It's an opportunity for you to make good karma. It's also the opportunity for us to come in contact, so that we can share some of our kindness and teachings and peace with you. If I didn't need any food from you, you would hardly ever see me. And that would be terrible. So, it gives you, if any of you go over to a monastery where I live in Perth, so many people go and feed us, much more food than we can ever eat. But, a few times I've asked, why do you come? You know what the answer is, that they enjoy it so much. To give to others, to support. That gives one so much happiness, especially if it's a good monastery, which I hope you accept. The monastery where I live is a good monastery. And so you're so happy. Just like the story of Osaka giving range road to the monastic community. So whenever any monk developed there, she'd be so happy. Wow, I'm part of that. And of course, many of you have started to see products coming off my production line in my factory. You all see that over Mali. And now you say, wow, is this the sort of monk which comes out of Bodhinyana monastery? You say, yeah. So yeah, you get so much happiness. But all your contributions, small or large, has gone towards creating great monks, and also Ayahasapanya and the nuns. They're actually proud. The BBC did a documentary years and years ago about the monasteries in Thailand. They had a wonderful analogy. The monastery you support is like your football team, like Liverpool or Manchester United. And you support them. And when the team do really well, you feel just so happy. That's my team. That's my monastery. Oh, I'm really happy. Yeah, it's getting somewhere. So you would have that if we were independent. So by saying we cannot destroy even seeds, we can't dig the soil, it makes us feel like we're very, very dependent on you, but that's for a purpose. For your happiness, and also to have the opportunity many, many times to come together and teach the Dhamma. So it's actually a brilliant rule for the Buddha, not to be self-sufficient. We practice only eating in the morning, abstaining eating at night outside the proper time, and that was just for simplicity. So you should get used to it. And Look, I put on weight, even only eating in the morning time. So that's one of the reasons I don't eat in the afternoon and evening. Imagine how fat I'll be there. No, just in the morning time, it's good enough. You abstain from dancing, singing, music and movies. I don't know if you heard my singing, if you'd understand why you'd abstain from it. We're not into torturing people. You abstain from wearing adornments, fragrances and cosmetics. So just you are who you are. You don't need to sort of wear makeup. Although there was 2 times in my life I've worn makeup. Going on TV. I remember going on TV, in the studio, you have to put it's not real makeup, they just put some stuff on your face so you don't glow under the lights. And after doing it, I should have asked first of all in the TV studio, I said, has anyone ever refused this? And they said, yeah. I said, who was that? And it's like Noel Gallagher of the Oasis band. He's just really a rebel. And he actually refused to put any makeup on. I said, I wish you'd have told me that first, that would have been number 2. And the worst part of that anecdote, I went to the TV studio to do some interview or something, live interview, and Ajahn Brahmali went with me. So he wasn't allowed in the makeup room, but he was watching through the window, making faces at me. I've never forgiven him. He was really teasing me. He said, shut up. He was laughing, see me being made up. Anyway, that was, because you had to. But usually you don't use any adornments, fragrances, cosmetics. You abstain from using luxurious furnishings. You abstain from accepting money. This is such a basic rule for monks. So it's really quite scandalous that monks actually accept money. You abstain from accepting money. You abstain from accepting raw grain and raw meat. You don't actually keep a stock of stuff. I'm not allowed to keep things overnight. Tea bags you can. And there's a few other things like sugar and honey and stuff. But most food, if you receive it today, you've got to give it up. So you can't store things up. Every day you have to rely on somebody offering you something. You abstain from accepting servants and slaves. So we have attendants, but they're not a slave. Did I order you what to do, Gerald? And slave, and PJ's gone now. Perhaps because I mistreated him. No, it's because he's got back to work. That was my attendant for the first few days. But don't use them as slaves and servants. And also, you wonder why it is people ask, when you go to give a talk, why don't you come with all your entourage? Because some people come with entourages. They say, don't you need an attendant on the journey? I said, I always get attendants on the journey. They're called flight attendants. Why should I need someone to sit next to me to look after me? The flight attendants somebody looks after me all the way to the airport. The flight attendants look after me while I'm on the flight. And then when I come out the flight, there's always someone to look after me. So what do you need to be travelling with lots of people for? Anyway, abstain from accepting raw grain, raw meat, abstain from accepting servants and slaves, abstain from accepting livestock, you abstain from accepting fields and land, you abstain from going on errands and running messages, you abstain from buying and selling, you abstain from practicing fraud, you abstain from accepting bribes. Sometimes the retreats where I teach in Perth, sometimes they book up after 3 or 4 minutes. And sometimes people have tried that for me. So can you get me in? Special, give big donation. Get out of here. I'm not going to be corrupt. Bribery. You abstain from practicing fraud, abstain from accepting bribes, deceiving, defrauding and trickery. You abstain from wounding, murdering, imprisoning, extortion, plunder and violence. So those are the things. You're a monk. And sometimes people, what is a monk? You all have your idea of what a monk is, and it's pretty accurate. Many times, you'll see tomorrow my baggage, just my little bag, and very often I've been overseas, long journeys, come back and get stopped by the customs. Where's your luggage, sir? So this is it. how come you've been overseas for a couple of weeks, 3 weeks, a month, and that's all you've got? And I say, I'm a monk. And they get it. They're not Buddhist. Straight away say, oh yeah, you're a monk. Well done. Please go through. They really respect that. Actually, monks living like monks. And sometimes you see monks with all this baggage and you think, oh crikey, what's a monk supposed to be? If I can't live simply, who can? Or just having ordinary possessions. I have a little watch over here. It's not a watch, it's an alarm clock. But one of my monks, he wears a watch that's got Rolex written on it. And he doesn't wear it, he has it in his bag. He flaunts it, see? Rolex watch. He said his mother bought it in Vietnam for, I think, $1. It's a fake Rolex. It's not a real thing. He's got Rolex written on it. Anyway, contentment. You become content with patch robes to protect your body. And that's actually what I've got. These have got patches on them, if you look hard enough. Even, I'm not sure if you saw, I don't know if you did see, but this is an old robe, and a couple of days ago it tore. Big hole in it. So what did I do? In your room, there's an amenity kit, there's a sewing kit. So I sewed it up. I had to learn how to sew, so I could do this. There's a big rip in my robe, but I sewed it up again. That's what monks do. You don't just take it to a shop and get somebody else to do it. You don't just go and get a new robe. Use your old one. So we have patch robes. Even me. So don't go out and just say, oh, the robe is split at your front, I'll buy you a new one. You get them easy in Thailand. No way. This robe is going to last me for quite a long time. I'll patch it first. You travel and with arms free to maintain your stomach. Wherever you go, you travel taking only these with you, just as a bird, wherever it goes, flies with its wings as its only burden. From that, actually one of the books in German is actually a compilation of some stories saying the bird with no suitcases. Because I've never seen a bird on international travel migrating carrying suitcases. Have a look in the sky. Have you ever seen that? You ever seen them with a backpack or a bum bag? They don't have any of that. They just fly. And the more you can do that, the more free you feel. That's a very great privilege to be able to do that as a monk. Fly with very few burdens. So you need to become content with patch robes to protect this body, arms free to maintain your stuff. Wherever you go, you fly, taking only these with you. But when I read that, I thought, I can always take this. When you follow this noble virtue and contentment, you experience within yourself a delightful bliss, the joy of being blameless. So, straight away here, this is the first happiness which comes up. You're a good person. You keep precepts, you don't harm things, you're simple living. It's not hard, it's not ascetic practice. It's actually joyful. It's great. More happiness, more time, less to worry about when you have fewer possessions. Honestly, sometimes you think, just in case I have to buy this, I have to get that. But the truth of the matter is, when you downsize, when you get rid of a lot of stuff, you feel so free. The more you can do that, the more free you feel. It's a blameless happiness. Even these days, when we're very conscious of not harming the environment, one way of helping limit climate change is not consuming so much. Because when you don't consume so much, you don't use the resources of the planet so much, you're more conserving. So, the next stage of the gradual training, you have simplicity, contentment, and precepts. People say, why do you keep precepts? Because they make me happy. Restraint of the senses. When you see an object, you do not let yourself get sucked in by the marks and features that generate defilements. Since you will have the faculty of sight unrestrained, unskillful states of wanting or aversion would afflict you. Instead, you practice wisdom when seeing. You guard the faculty of sight and you undertake the restraint of sight. So what that means, as a young monk, still affected a lot by lust, every time a beautiful Thai girl came into the monastery, we always had that joke. It's not for a monk in Thailand going living in the jungle. We weren't afraid of tigers. Thai girls killed many more monks than tigers. It's an old joke, but it was true. You know, human beings, you're men, you have lust. So how are you going to deal with that? So, you know, you did notice, you know, your mindfulness. If ever any of you, the guys, if you see a really hot girl, what do you actually do? You find you go to the part of her which is the most attractive. You know, if it's her hair, you just straight away go look at her hair. Or if it's her breasts, you go straight away look at that. Oh, she's got nice breasts. You are drawn, sucked in to the part which makes you excited. When you see that happening, self-restraint said, no, I will look for something else, which stops me getting excited. And what I used to do as a young monk, I'd always look for her pimples. There'll always be some pimple somewhere. I never found a girl without a pimple. It's natural, don't feel embarrassed about it. In other words, she wasn't perfect. And that was, as soon as I saw something negative, that balance, it wasn't sort of a hot girl, it was a human being. So I never looked at any girl as a possible romantic sexual object. It's a human being to be respected. And the same as guys as well. You know, the nuns, of course, you know, nuns have lust as well. If they see something they really get impressed with, see the downside of it, see the opposite. So you don't just get sucked up by the features which make you have lust and desire to want it. And the opposite there, if you see your ex-partner or someone who's cheated you, you find that it's so easy to focus your senses on the aversion producing part of them, remembering all the bad things which they did, all the cruel things they did. You don't do that. You train your senses, if you have aversion, to look for the positive side of it. They're so really kind. Yeah, they have some bad stuff, but they've been very kind, they've done some good things. They're human beings who live in this world and probably contribute to many things. It's like the story of the lawyer. The lawyer who was called up by one of the big charities in Australia. And the guy was seeking for donations for his charity and told him, he said, the lawyer, I've managed to get some of your records and talk to the other charity organisations. You're a very prominent lawyer, you make a huge amount of money, you've never ever given anything to charity. So I think it's about time that you pay back some of your good fortune to those who are in need. It's about time you do your contributions to charity. And the lawyer paused a moment and said, do you know that my brother was in the Iraq war and suffers from post-traumatic stress? He needs a lot of medical attention and he cannot hold down a job or have a career. I never realised that, said the lawyer, butting in as lawyers do. And also, my mother has got dementia and she also needs 24/7 care. And that my sister has just gone through a very acrimonious divorce and the husband has stolen all of the money. And my child has got ADD and needs special schooling, can't go to the free ordinary schools. And the charity officer said, I'm sorry sir, I never realised what you're going through. And said the lawyer, butting in again, if I don't give any money to them, why should I give any to you? That's an old joke. I apologise any lawyers in the audience here. There's only a joke about lawyers. But if you see some people like that, straight away you stereotype them, your senses get sucked in with aversion. Donald Trump. Straight away, aversion. So that's not restraint of the senses. You see some good things in that person. So you don't get caught up in aversion. Your enemies, whoever they have to be, people you don't like, people who cheated you, you find your senses go immediately to qualities in them which support and reinforce your anger and ill will. So when you see that with mindfulness, you train yourself. No, I'm going to see their good qualities, their wonderful qualities. Even, it's hard work being a monk, but a lot of the times I try to support Adolf Hitler. He was a vegetarian, he loved his mother. He was an all bad. And I get hate mail for that. You can't say that. He killed so many people. Of course he did. But your senses are going to what supports your ill will. It's not fair. And I do that as a test case. If you can actually see something good in someone like Adolf Hitler, imagine what you can do to your ex-husband. It's easy, or to your boss, to your wife. It's so easy to love somebody if you follow the sense restraint. Not lusting for them, not wanting them, to own them or see what pleasure you can squeeze out of them, but just respecting them. Human beings with beautiful sides to them. So that way we balance. That way we overcome our anger or lust. And that's what else we do there. So, people say, my ex-wife, you don't know her much, and if you know her, you realise that there are some wars with 1,000 bad bricks and not one good one in there. Yeah, sure. So the same with the other senses, the sound, the smell, the taste, the body feeling, having compromised something in the mind, you do not let yourself get sucked in by the marks and features that generate defilements. Since if you left even the mind faculty unrestrained, unskillful states of wanting and aversion would afflict you. Instead you practice wisdom with the mind, you guard the mind, you undertake restraint of the mind. And another anecdote about this, should have said this at the beginning of this retreat, I'm not sure that sometimes you are put in a room with someone who snores and you haven't had a good night's sleep ever since you came here. Or maybe that's your partner who snores. And how do you overcome that problem? One of my monks had his brother come to visit. There was no place to stay, so he asked, can my brother share the same room in my kuti with him? I said, yeah, sure, but you're old, your brother must also be old. He must snore, and so do you. I said, okay, I can cope with that. So these two men in a small room, the kuti, and sure enough it happened. His brother went to sleep first and started snoring. And so how did my monk deal with that? Exactly what it says here. Having heard a sound, he does not let himself get sucked in by the marks and features that generate aversion, otherwise he would go to sleep. So what he did, he changed his perception. His brother's snoring, he started to look upon it as the most amazing, modern, cutting-edge musical symphony. And it only took him 5 minutes or 10 minutes to see the marks and the features which did not generate aversion. So that he didn't get that ill will which would keep him awake. And he said it worked so well. The last thing he remembered when he woke up in the morning after a good night's sleep was how delightful his brother's snoring sounded. His perception. How wonderful that snore was. And then he went asleep. That's how we practice sense restraint. We actually work with our senses, knowing how to restrain our aversion or our desires with the senses. And if you do that, you experience within yourself an even more delightful bliss, the joy of being unagitated. What people say, oh, they must be in a bad mood today. Before I went to Australia, when Ajahn Chah sent me there, the monks asked me to give my last talk. And my last talk in Australia, in Thailand, before I went to Australia, was a teaching. It was based on a sutta. I forget what it was now, but anyway, it's a sutta where a monk asked the Buddha for permission to go up north of India, and the Buddha said, "That's a very rough place. How will you cope with those rough Buddhas, those people who aren't sort of civilized, they're really rough?" And the monk said, "Oh, well, if they call me a bad, if they don't feed me," I realised that, well, some monks fast for days, so I get a free fasting. Yeah, but what if they say bad names at you? Well, if they say bad names to me, it's wonderful because at least they don't hit me. What if they hit you? Well, I would think at least they don't sort of wound me with weapons. What if they wound you with a weapon? Well, at least they don't take my life. What if they take your life? Said the Buddha. Well, at least I die without getting old and having all these old age problems. And it was positive thinking way before that became ever popular in the West. And the Buddha said, "Wow, great, you can go." And about 6 months later, he came with a lot of headmen, because the headman was so pleased with this monk, came to see the Buddha and said, "What a wonderful monk this is." It worked. So, the last talk I gave when I was in Thailand, I said, "You're going to Australia. What if people don't feed you?" "Well," I say, "I'm just going to fast." "What if people say bad names about you? Call you a drongo. It's a bad name in Australia, or whatever. A lazy bum, a bludger." I say, "Well, if they do that, at least they don't hit me." "What if they hit you?" "Well, at least they don't hit me over the head with a beer bottle." "What if they do that?" "Well, at least..." A positive attitude. Australia's not a rough place. If you look for the roughness, you can find it, but usually it's a very kind, wonderful, peaceful place, like everywhere in the world. So, next time I go back to Perth, I say to my monks, "Why didn't you go to Iraq?" And then I read out that sutta, and they go, "Oh, crikey, that's how Bob's got me now." No, that's any joke. But anyway, that is sense restraint. Seeing the positive in things. Training your senses that way. And that is so important in work, for the people you have to work with, because you spend so much time in work, and people always complain about office politics, backbiting, egos. You can change that. Don't look for that. Train your senses. Look for something different. And also, that gives you this beautiful happiness of being unagitated. Clear comprehension. You act in full comprehension of the purpose we're going forward and returning. This is repeating the Satipatthana. Oh, we're looking ahead, looking away. In other words, you're mindful of what you're doing. So be efficient with what you're doing. So if it has no purpose, then don't do anything. Always keep in mind, what am I doing this for? I don't need to do it, so stop. Relax. Making full comprehension of the purpose when regarding eating, drinking, defecating, urinating, walking, standing, sitting, sleeping, being awake, talking and keeping silent. And I mentioned when you're talking, why are you doing that? People talk so much without much consideration, and their mouth gets themselves into big trouble. So it's much better, especially in a relationship, keep them silent. Or just use the phrase, "Yes, darling." That's all you need to say for a happy relationship. "Yes, darling." Why do you keep saying that? Is that John Brown said it? "Oh, yes, darling." I don't know why you get into arguments. Meditation. So after clear comprehension, you get mindfulness and then meditation. When you develop this noble virtue, this noble restraint of the sense faculties, and this noble clear comprehension, then you go to a secluded dwelling, such as a Marriott Phuket resort, or the wilderness, a foot of a tree, mountain, ravine, hillside, cave, jungle, ground, jungle thing, open space, Hebrew straw, anywhere we get some peace and quiet. And I would add these days, just a small apartment in the city. You're so quiet. And you sit down, folding the leg crosswise, straightening the body, and establishing mindfulness as a priority. Now this is an interesting part of meditation. I've never focused on totally, because most people focus on what you're supposed to be watching. But here again, it's focusing on how you're supposed to be watching whatever comes up. By abandoning wanting for the world of the five senses, you abide with the mind free from wanting. You purify the mind from desire. It's not what you're watching, but are you wanting something? Are you desiring something? So you keep your mindfulness on that. That's the burglars trying to steal happiness from your mind, peace in your mind. Yeah, you may be watching, the entry, the gate, but the burglars may be coming over the wall. You're watching in the wrong place. So the guard will never be able to protect the house. So you abandon wanting, you abandon aversion. You abide with the mind free from the will, compassionate for the welfare of all living beings, including yourself. You thus purify the mind from aversion. So you're still only just struggling to watch the breath. This is terrible. I want to go further. That's aversion. Still will towards this moment. Be happy where you are. That's contentment. No wanting, no ill will. And abandoning dullness and drowsiness, you abide with mind free from dullness and drowsiness. Bright-minded, clearly comprehending, you purify the mind from dullness and drowsiness. Dullness and drowsiness is low energy and negativity. So, how do you get more energy? You sleep well, and you don't waste the energy by thinking and planning and doing so much. More energy is lost in the brain than any other organ of the body. So if you keep the brain nice and efficient, peaceful, giving it breaks, then you find you have more energy and less dullness and drowsiness. And you abandon restlessness and remorse. You abide unagitated, with the mind inwardly peaceful. You purify the mind from restlessness and remorse. And one way, again, is just the sense restraint. So nothing agitates you. So if someone bangs the door, and you're none of my business, let it go. So you don't have to keep thinking about stuff. If watching the news agitates you, stop watching it. When I was in Thailand, it was about for years and years and years, I never saw any news on newspaper. So what actually happened, because people in the village knew I was English, they said, oh, do you know that your government has gone to war with Argentina over the Falkland Islands? I thought it was a joke. People don't go to war these days. It was true. Couldn't believe it. So I got a newspaper, and I found, the news hadn't changed at all. The names had changed, the countries involved in the wars, the politicians involved in corruption, the celebrities being caught playing around with somebody else's wife. Yeah, that was the same news I remember when I was young. The stories are always the same, just the characters change. Have a look. That's what politics, whether it's wars, whether it's economies, it's always the same news. Slightly different, but pretty much the same. So if it agitates you, just give it up. That's why I always, if I do get a newspaper, I always look at the comments first of all. That's the whole purpose, I thought, for newspapers to have comments. Much more enjoyable, much more fun. And also a lot more meaningful, philosophical. It's great sayings which I got from the comics. That one which I was saying on the last retreat, which I was in Hua Hin, that Snoopy comment, one day everyone will die. Can you argue with that? Yes, you can. Snoopy did a much better version of that. Every day we will die. So no, one day everyone will die. And he said, but most days we don't die. They're as true as each other. One day everyone will die was a bit negative. makes us worried. But most days we don't die. That's true too. Which means it's a much more positive attitude. Sure, you know you're going to die one day, but probably not today. Most days you don't. So that's looking at the 998 good books, not the 2 bad books. So you do that, and which means that you abide unagitated with a mind inwardly peaceful. And abandoning doubt, you abide having gone beyond doubt, unperplexed about wholesome states, you purify your mind from doubt. What is a wholesome state? Peace, kindness, joy, gentleness. Those are all wholesome states. You don't need to be a Buddhist to know that. You feel this feels good, it feels right. That is my simile of finding a stream which goes in the correct direction. More peace, more stillness, more calm, more happiness, real happiness. So you abandon doubt by being mindful, getting feedback for what you're doing, and see if it's going in the correct direction. So that is how you meditate here. Mentions nothing about watching the breath, mentions nothing about watching limiters or scanning your body or doing chanting. It's all about how you're watching these things. With these 5 hindrances, wanting, ill will, tiredness, agitation or restlessness, and doubt, abandon, making sure that those are not being pursued, not being developed, but being restrained and limited and let go of. It's not what you watch is important. It's whether you are lessening these 5 hindrances. And then the jhanas. And this is what happens. You abandon the 5 hindrances, and these jhanas are what happen next. Stages of letting go. Letting go of wanting, letting go of evil, letting go of the sloth and torpor, agitation, which comes usually from those first 2, a byproduct of the first 2, and lastly the doubt. See what's happening. And this is exactly as I said yesterday. And abandon the 5 hindrances, totally free from the 5 senses, free from unwholesome states. You enter upon by the first jhana when the mind moves onto the object and holds onto it, the object being joy and pleasure caused by being totally free from the 5 senses. When the mind stops moving onto the objects and stops holding onto it, you enter upon the abide of the second jhana, which has trust in the object, which is the bliss, enough to let go of holding it, and unity of mind without any movement or holding, the joy and pleasure caused by perfect stillness. With the fading away of joy, you find mindful and fully aware, experiencing the bliss purified from joy, enter upon the abide of the third jhana, on account of which no one's announced, one has a pleasant abiding indeed, by such mindfulness and equanimity. Up a bit more. And having abandoned pleasure and pain, all vacant experience from the 5 senses, and having disappearance of joy and grief, all vacant from the 6th sense except for equanimity, you enter upon the abide in the 4th jhana, which is only the neutral mental fading and remaining, which is pure mindfulness with equanimity. So that is the gradual training to jhanas, and afterwards it didn't say in the gradual training, because in the gradual training it takes them up to jhana and assumes that afterwards the liberation will happen. Any questions on the gradual training? A few interesting points there, I hope you found relevant. Are you bored? You want another joke? Or you want a cup of tea, go to the toilet? Okay, any questions? The question box, where's it gone? That's over there. The question box is only 1 or 2 questions. So, it's going to be if you want a very short night this evening, because many are going tomorrow morning, you want early to bed, then don't put so many questions in. So it's your karma. Anyway, if you have any questions about what we've been saying about this gradual training, please write them with a piece of paper and we can discuss them this evening. Sadhu. Sadhu.